For anyone who has been wondering where the hell we've been,
we're back! Cartridge Crusaders. Cool. Dash.
Yeah, so right now it's a couple days after Christmas. While on Christmas break, I had some downtime. I did some research, probably put like a couple hours into this, and I found some shops all around our area, northern Michigan, right around the Detroit metro area.
It's so cold in the D.
I called some places actually in the D also, but there was some issues, like some shops had gone out of business. One was like a residential woman's phone number, and she's like, oh, this is a personal residence. I'm like, oh, okay, sorry, man. Other lines were disconnected, but the suburbs seem to have some places, so we're gonna go check them out.
we were at a place called Game Quest, which wasn't too bad. It seemed to be more into the newer gen stuff as opposed to retro, which is what we're mainly after. And it was an okay place. I think Scott was the only one that picked up anything there.
Okay, I picked up some goodies. These actually are both games I already own, which I know they're good deals though. $4.99 for Lightning Force. Then here's a more obscure Sega title. Marco, it may not be the sexiest title. It's not even a good game. But ladies and gentlemen, this is Sega Genesis collecting. It's not Mario, it's Marco. Deal with it.
So one of the places we went was a place called Mind Games. It's one of those places that's a treat to go into, mainly because the selection is high. This particular store was extremely clean, organized.
They have some really freaking awesome stuff. Like we saw X2, X3 in there, Dracula X.
Gargoyles Quest 2 in the box.
Yeah, some pretty awesome games for NES and SNES, but I asked the lady, hey, can we film? And she's like, we're not interested in that, so.
I did end up picking a couple things up there. I got Times of War on the NES. I got Stuntman on the NES. And then based off of a recommendation from our resident Sega expert, Scott told me that he was going to buy a second copy of Marco on the Sega Genesis, as he had already purchased one earlier today, just because this one was a couple dollars cheaper and he knew it was worth more. He offered it up to me, and I decided, well, what the hell, we can both buy a copy of Marco today.
We ended up stopping in at this place called Retro Taku,
which specializes in imports.
This shop was really cool. It had a bunch of stuff we had never seen before.
I have never seen so much import stuff in one place, and not just for a particular brand. Pretty much everything that was sold in Japan was in this shop.
They had a bunch of imports for every system, but of course they also carry a lot of North American games as well.
One thing I wanted to buy so bad was these really tiny N64 controllers that were made by Hori. As I'm going around the store, I come up to their glass showcase where they have some high-end items in there. One of them being the Panasonic Q which is a GameCube that has a DVD player. The other big thing in the case that caught my eye was the Nintendo 64 disk drive, which I've never seen in my life, or the Panasonic Q.
We're talking like PC Engine in the box, sealed Ninja 5.0. It's kind of funny, they actually mentioned that they were subscribed to us, which kind of took us back.
It's kind of cool for us just because, I mean, we've only done a couple episodes. You know, it was flattering, really.
I picked up Shining Force Gaiden and also Clue Clue Land on the Famicom. I got introduced to Clue Clue Land on NES Remix on the Wii U, and it seemed pretty sweet. I just don't know how I'm going to play the thing, so I've been waiting to get my hands on a Retron 5, and it got delayed. So who knows?
There wasn't anything in there I had to have, but the guys were so cool and the shop was so cool I had to buy something. So looks like some sort of a racing game, Route 16 for Famicom. Grabbed it for a couple bucks.
I was thinking about picking up some games, but then I ended up seeing this thing up on the shelf.
The GameCube keyboard controller only released in Japan. I will be playing loads of Double Dash with this bad boy.
That controller is just overpowered. I think Crumb shaved off like 4 seconds from my course record.
On our way to the next store on our itinerary, we actually stopped into a random bookstore. Sometimes you can find stuff in there. They did not sell games, but one of the people working behind the counter did recommend a place called Hot Hits, which was not on our list.
For Hot Hits, it's kind of a shame we don't have footage for it. It was a pretty big building that kind of had like a warehouse feel to it.
The store was a little unorganized, but I think it was mainly because there was so much stuff. There was nowhere to put all the stuff that was jam-packed into this building.
There was a lot of stuff you could really just dug through and spent a lot of time there. I picked up this Retro Gen, which is a portable Sega Genesis. It's got a cartridge slot, so you can put your own games in it. And then also has a cable that lets you hook it up to a TV so you can play it on your TV. It's actually new. I got it for 40 bucks. It seemed like a good deal. I think they go for more online and this is complete and everything. Unfortunately for the handheld I picked up, it's not working right now, so I'm gonna give it to Dash to see if he can tinker around with it.
We actually were driving by a Blockbuster store that was still open amazingly, but it was closing, and they were having a closing sale where it was 80% off DVDs and just huge discounts on everything. So we figured we'd at least take a peek and see what they had. Like video games were 40% off. Most of the new release, most of the DVDs were all 80% off. So I did pick up a bunch of DVDs, but I got 2 good deals. First one, I got Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City for $360. With the discounts they have going, I paid $6 for it. And then the other good pickup was for the Wii, Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. With the discount, I ended up paying $18 for it.
Not bad.
So we're not going to complain about that stuff too much. And
I got this.
while Scott got Junior Mints. And now we also have some music to listen to in the car. So we're going to definitely check out this sweet Zelda CD right now.
Yes. Not since Grandia 2 soundtrack we had something like this. Next stop on the list is Time Traveler Games.
This store is so freaking cool because they have everything imaginable between Magic the Gathering cards, retro video games, and old toys.
This was by far my favorite stop on this particular trip. It reminded me a lot of 2 of my other favorite places we've been. One being Pop in Sandusky, Ohio. The other one being actually a pair of stores, Big Fun Toy Store in Cleveland.
Their inventory was very impressive and it seemed like a really cool place just to hang out.
The selection at this place was awesome. And on top of that, my favorite aspect about this store is the pricing was phenomenal. It was actually, in most cases, below retail pricing, which is something you don't see at a store with this much selection. In fact, I hope to make a trip back there really soon just to pick up a bunch more stuff. If I would have known that we were going to stumble upon such a gem, I would have definitely come up with a way to have more funds for this trip.
They were having a Magic the Gathering tournament going on, and we were kind of like having to like scooch by like the players to like check out like the Genesis games in this case.
Is that the red, green, and
That like doubled up real wise.
I think I might have one of those. I actually have a set for Hydra.
And one of the first things I saw was Marco, price tag sitting right there, right on it. It was $3.95.
I know Scott's been telling me to pick this game up for a while. We've been seeing it for like different prices, but Marco CIB on Genesis, but yeah, it had a $3.95 price tag on it.
Marco gets no respect.
You know what's really funny is that today, every single one of us bought a copy of Marco.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Crumb thought he'd be the bigger man and walk away today without Marco, but yeah.
It turns out he gets the best complete copy because Scott and I both bought loose carts. What do you think about that, Scott?
I'm proud of you guys. I picked up NCAA football for Dreamcast, just another one off the list. And then Sonic Drift 2 on Game Gear.
I picked up an NES 4 score, which I don't have, but there are some good 4-player games that I do have.
You going for RC Pro Am 2?
Well, that and Off-Road and Indie Heat is 4-player. And good old Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Very minty. Complete.
It's never played.
It's probably never been played.
$3.95.
The day's starting to come to a close, but we managed to fit in 2 more stops on our trip before we ended up making it home. The first one being a Salvation Army, where we ended up spotting some NES carts.
We just see a boatload of NES games over there.
Looky, looky.
Unfortunately, they were $5 a piece and all pretty much common titles that most of us already had. The second place was a store called Gameplay, where they were having a buy one get one sale, and we all managed to get some pretty cool finds there.
Buy one, get one on retro games? Yes!
So there was an interesting Genesis game I'd never even heard of called Outlander. It's not complete. The box is in okay shape. It's not. There's some fading. Something got spilled on the back. It does not have the manual, but the cartridge is in basically mint condition. It's a little dirty. So I had to get that in, $10. I looked it up. It seems to be, an average price. So for my free game, I decided on this Hogan's Alley 5-screw for $7.95. And you may ask yourself, why the hell would one spend $8 on a copy of Hogan's Alley? I got ripped off big time. So I think I'm just gonna trash it. We'll open it up and we'll trash it. And that is why.
Oh!
That's it?
The Famicom converter right there.
Good eye.
Fresh in the cart.
So now Scott can play all of his newly found Famicom collection on his top loader.
What's this?
Marco.
No.